So you don't have anything to say on that particular vote?
Yes, because it was not part of their case.
From the final figures that
and no evidence was led throughout the course of the proceedings relating to that voters register. How did you expect us to join issue with you? And the tribunal completely ignored that because it is not part of their case.
From the final figures that you eventually tabulated or that you finally got from the accreditation,
yes,
what was the final figure?
The final figure of accredited voters was about I cannot say the exact figure, about 1 point something million. The final figure of accredited voters. The valid votes were about 900 and something.
Did all parties agree to that?
That is what they are disagreeing with. The issue is that they have this erroneous impression that card reader is basically for accreditation. Contrary to the law, card reader is just for verification and authentication of the PVC. And they hurriedly jumped to court. That dealt a very big blow on them. And when they realized that their case was shaken in this regard, they started shifting the post. They went back to the voters register, which was not even part of their case. And we did not join issue with them in that regard. And apart from these two witnesses, other witnesses called. All their evidence was solely based on hearsay. We have about 3,600 and something polling units, about 4,000 something voting points. Because if a polling unit has a large number of voters, they would subdivide it into voting points for convenience sake. And they did not even call any evidence from any of the polling agents. From their weaknesses, they all centered on only 4 local governments and some units in these 4 local government areas. And the evidence of their weaknesses are based on hearsay evidence. So they just come and start talking, but the factual situation is what I'm telling you now. What transpired in the tribunal is what I'm telling you now. The speaker that just spoke now told the tribunal that his tabulation was done in error. No evidence. His tabulation is contrary to evidence he tendered in court. And you know what election petition is? It's based on figures. And when your figures is at variance with your case, it will definitely collapse. And that is exactly what happened to his case.
Okay, so why would you tell her? Because they kept on saying that at the initial stage, when they were reading the judgments, yes, they were of the opinion that the judges seemed to agree with the grounds for which they had come to the tribunal and that they assumed that they had met those grounds. Only at the last stage, they said the judges and their words somersaulted.
Preliminarily, their own reply, from where the testimony of their star witness got his own footing, was several paragraphs of their reply to the respondent's reply was expunged by the tribunal, and that affected the testimony of one of the witnesses, the star witness, Tona Ogboru, and all the exhibits tendered through him will definitely be affected.
So you mean that all those cases they are making about the natural cause, after having admitted the grounds of your appeal, no such natural thing?
Yeah, nothing happened. That is just the case. Their case is so weak.
But they still say that, look, on grounds of appeal, they are very optimistic because the judges haven't upheld the grounds that they will get the elections upheld.
No ground was upheld. No ground was upheld. The judges said, good, card reader is good for our democracy. It helps our accreditation process. But that is not the ratio decidendi of the decision. That is not the reason.
But they said it was in support of their case.
For accreditation. No. What the judges say is that, like in APC's case, the judge said card reader could be used as a factual situation to support a ground of corruption and all that. So we have our own reservation for that singular ruling. But it has nothing to do with the ratios decidendi. What the judges said in both cases is that they want us to nullify this election on the basis of an inconclusive card reader report.
Of which the card reader, as you just said now, yes, the judge admitted.
Yes.
So if they're admitting that, yes, that could be a fact to support your case, not as a fundamental basis for appeal, why wouldn't they be optimistic in appeal?
They cannot be optimistic. The case is different from this scenario. It's different from this scenario. In this case, we use card reader I want you to understand it properly. We did not say we did not use card reader. Card reader was used everywhere. And all the testimonies of their weaknesses, they testify to the fact that they were...
Yeah, he says card reader was used, but it was not used properly.
It was used. They could not prove it. They could not cross the threshold of proof.
So all those documents that he showed,
according to them, they are now saying that card reader was not properly used in virtually all the polling units.
And that it didn't fail.
Yeah, it didn't fail. And you are coming to, it was not used, was not properly used, some polling units was not used. The burden is on them to prove this assertion, to prove this allegation. And in proving this allegation, they merely caught few weaknesses.
You say few witnesses,
Yes.
but you say you called 2.
No, we cannot. The burden is on them to prove. Why do we labor ourselves to call more witnesses when they have not crossed the threshold of proof? We can't do that. It saves us time.
Do you think that
Rather, the testimony of the said Tony Ogboro supports our case. The testimony of the INEC witnesses they subpoenaed supports our case. So what's the essence of calling witness? The INEC said we don't need to call any witness, because the witnesses subpoenaed by the petitioners has helped our case. They are our witness. They are INEC staff. They have said so. They called one of the witnesses who testified that the election was free and fair.
No, but at that stage, you assumed that they had helped your case because the ruling had not been given at the time.
Yes, that is the law.
So you could not have been completely sure that they had helped your case.
We were
you
sure.
Were sure
yeah, because it was on record. So on that basis, we decided not to call any witness. Why should we call any witness when they've not been able to prove their allegation? Even though, don't forget that, even though that we even admitted, if assuming but not considering that we admit their pleadings, the law still requires them to prove.
Do you think they should change the presumption wherein INEC should then prove that the elections were substantially were conducted in substantial compliance with the Electoral Act? Mr. Edoja suggested that these days it's difficult for parties who go to court
petitioners to prove. It is for them to prove. That is the law.
Yeah, but he suggested...
You are asking of my opinion.
Your opinion on that, yes.
My opinion that the law should remain the way it is. Because you cannot, because we have situations where after election, like in Delta State, Okowa is a household name. Very popular. Very, very popular.
I didn't expect you to say otherwise.
Yes, no, that is just the truth. Very popular. And that the election that produced him is about the freest and fairest that has ever happened. So when they went to court, they were finding it difficult to get any evidence to substantiate the allegations. No evidence at all. They could not call any witness to substantiate all the allegations of corrupt practices, and they virtually abandoned it. In that of APC called only 4 witnesses. 2 of the witnesses are subpoenaed witnesses from INEC. How can you call 4 witnesses in an election, in respect of an election where you have about 4,000 something polling units, about 3,600 polling units? How do you expect a tribunal to give you judgment in that regard? And at the end of the day, at the address stage, APC said they are abandoning all their assertion about the corrupt practices. And these corrupt practices they are abandoning, they pleaded it in virtually all their paragraphs of their affidavit. And if you abandon them, what is remaining? Is it not skeleton? What is remaining in their case?
So
it's dead, ab initio.
What do you think will happen at the Court of Appeal?
We are waiting for them. You will see the outcome. The judges have done a very good job. They don't have any proof. They cannot prove their case. That is just the case. They cannot, Court of Appeal, we affirm the decision of the trial court. We sure affirm it. Because they don't have anything to go.
Okay.
So they are making a very heavy whether voters register. Is that part of your case? Where in your pleadings did you plead voters register? Where in your evidence did you tie voters register to anything that happened on the floor? None. One
of the parties believes that the judges were biased.
That's not true.
You don't believe that?
I don't believe that.
Did your party...
They analyzed all the testimonies of all the witnesses. They took time to analyze all the testimonies. It was so glaring to all that it is a very, very sound judgment. Unbiased judgment. And that is the position.
Do you see this case getting to the Supreme Court?
It may. And if they decide, I will advise them to join hands with the governor and move the state further, rather than litigating. For the candidate of the Labour Party, I would say he has institutionalized litigation. It is part of him. From the inception...
Is that not a good thing?
Right, and resorting to...
violence.
But if you have facts, good. If you have facts, it's not a case of after every election, you lace up your petition with outright falsehood, and you cannot prove these petitions. At the end of the day, you go up to Supreme Court.
You just said it's not falsehood. You said they came with an incomplete,
Yes.
loaded information.
Inconclusive.
Yeah, and now they have a complete one with INEC. So what if they approach INEC with all of those complete documents that you also have copies of and
Yes,
go for
yes.
the appeal? So when you say they're bringing up lies, you haven't actually said those were lies. You said they were not conclusive.
Yes.
So
No,
it's
no,
not
at the appeal
entirely.
stage, you cannot bring any
No,
other-
a minute. No, we're talking about the document that they brought
Yes.
in this particular tribunal that
Yes.
you've just termed lies.
Yeah.
And you've also said Great Ogburu has a tradition of approaching the courts. And
Yes.
we wanted to find out what other alternative do you expect of someone who's a Nigerian?
Good. Resorting to the law is very, very good. But
And you're a lawyer.
Yes, if the basis,
Do we have an alternative to
if the
dispute?
basis is founded on true facts, you don't just go to the courts because you just feel you
But
want
they
to go to the court.
succeeded in having rerun before in Delta State.
That is a different case from now, a different scenario from now.
Yeah,
And don't
because-
forget that that judgment that gave them rerun was a technical judgment from Court of Appeal. It has something to do with the burden of proof, and all that. It was a technical, but this is
Well,
a
he
judgment.
succeeded.
Even though the petition of the APC in this regard has been found to be incompetent. The tribunal found that this petition is incompetent because it was signed by only one of the petitioners, contrary to paragraph 4 or paragraph
Was that
3
why they were fined?
Yes, it was found to be, but the tribunal still went ahead to the merit of the case and analyzed virtually all the testimony of all the witnesses. Still went ahead to show the world that these people have not been able to present any case. What is the petition of the APC? About in a governorship election tribunal, about 4 pages of foolscap sheet. You are alleging with only 4 witnesses, where we have about 3,000 to 4,000 police. So both petitions are weak, are very, very weak at initial.
Okay, even though they said they will try and see if it's weak or not at the appeal, but you say you're waiting for them.
Yes.
Victor Bonka is a member of the PDP and one of the defense councils. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you. But thank you very much. I had wanted to say something before I leave. I don't know whether I'll crave your indulgence so to do.
On this
On the
matter?
same
On this
matter?
yeah.
Okay.
Just the
Few
last
seconds.
speaker that spoke said something about deplorable condition of the airport, of the roads, and all that.
But that's politics, not law. I mean, you're an expert in law, so let's leave it at law.
Yeah, thank you.
We know
very
you will
much.
disagree.
Yeah,
Quite
thank you
all right.
very
We
much.
get the
Thank-
point.
I'm wondering whether he's from Delta State. Because I flew from Asaba Airport and I did not pass through any porthole before I got to the airport.
All right, then.
So it's not enough to just come and start with outright falsehood. Thank you very much.
We get that. We'll be back in a moment. Don't go away yet.
Thank you.